Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How was your guys' weeks this week?
My week was fantastic. It is fantastic, and it's going great. So.
Good. Chad?
Stressful. Yeah.
For any particular reason?
Oh, I just found out I got about 100 extra pages of stuff to turn in a very short amount of time, and I'm questioning how I'm going to do it all.
Yeah.
Never happens in your business. Never.
All the time. It happens all the time. We, as professional communicators, refuse to communicate amongst ourselves.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'll say...
Shoemakers' kids don't have no shoes.
Yes, it's just, yeah, I mean,
So
that's
true
the
in some
deal.
ways.
So we've had, massive breakdowns in communication, and so, I'm going to have a really stressful October. So take a really good look, because there probably won't be any hair left at the end of October.
You'll look like me.
And if there is any left, it's going to be white as a sheet. So...
Well, okay, communication is key, and we've talked about this the last couple programs, and just media bias and things like that. So I would say I'm tired, because what I did was I did not watch the vice presidential debate. I waited till after the debate was over, and then started trying to read any headline that I could get. Okay, J.D. Vance won. Waltz won. Maybe there's not a definitive winner at this point. I mean, it was almost like the stories were already written and ready to roll, right? Whatever their respective belief was going to be on the outcome of it was written with that slide. So there's that. Okay.
Well, welcome to debate night in America, man.
Well, yeah. Because, but see, I think this is interesting, because first I'm going to say, and not toot my own horn, but I'm a pretty good debater, okay? When I've been out there, I've had multiple people tell me repeatedly on all of the forums that I've ever done or debates that I've ever done that I fared very, very well comparatively to some of the other people. And I'll say, after watching them and being super critical of myself, yeah, that's probably the truth. But debates don't win elections. I mean, are we aware of this?
Debates are wonderful political theater.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, am I right, Andy?
If you're
100%.
If you're a good,
it's sad that's what it's turned into.
Yes.
But even the way they're formatted, and I think you were speaking of that when we first walked in together today, and that is a perfect placement for that. It's theater.
Yeah. It's
for the people who want to hear their own thoughts said back to them.
Yes.
And nothing else.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah. Now, you go back, more years than I want to count, into the mid-'90s. I was a part of the college debate team. And we had two different styles that we competed in. Lincoln Douglas. And it's not hard to figure out where that came from. And parliamentary. Also not real hard to figure out where all that came from. I was in parliamentary. Myself and my 16-year-old partner were ranked in the top 10 of the nation in parliamentary debate. So I know a thing about debate, right? And quite honestly, what our debates, our presidential debates, and our presidential, all of them, what they have become are parliamentary debates. They're no longer Lincoln Douglas debates.
School me on that.
Okay. So basically, parliamentary debate is as such. If you're going to do it competitively, the way it works is that you and a partner are a team. When you walk into the room, you are told by the parliamentarian if your team will be on the positive or the negative. You are then told what the question is going to be. I can still remember my favorite debate question, but I digress. And then you are given 5 minutes to prepare your case, and research is not allowed. It's basically just speaking off the cuff. and each debater will give 2 speeches. All right? So when you watch our debates, what happens? We ask a question. Somebody asked J.D. Vance a question, and he's expected to answer it like that. It's pure parliamentary debate. Lincoln Douglas, you've got more of an idea of what's coming. You've had to do your research. You're going to see people consulting reams of notes before they walk into the room. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just I would like people to understand that what we're watching right now is not the kind of thing that was going on when Abraham Lincoln was running for president.
Good call. Well, and it's interesting that you say that because, written versus spoken word. Oftentimes when you're given a questionnaire from a news organization like the Kansan gives out questions, candidate questions they can answer, they all give out the same questions. That gives you a period of time to craft your message, do some research, although I think 500 words or less becomes rather complicated because it is difficult to articulate an appropriate message in that amount of time because there's so much that's not. But I mean, that's part of
there's
the
a reason for those word limits.
It's so you're not, and it is so you're not. It really challenges the candidate to get to the point, to be able to make sure that they're, writing for the mass audience, obviously, and who's going to read it. But even then, when we get into the type of debates that we're talking about, because we have an upcoming debate on October 6th. At the Meridian Center, I do believe.
Is it a debate or is it a forum?
Well, this is interesting because this is a play on words, all right? I've seen multiple people right now in organizations using the word forum. Forum. Well, it's not really a forum. It's more like a town hall. A forum would mean that you'd have to have more than one individual there at that time, maybe with agreed opinions or opposing opinions. But holding a forum is not what people. It's like we've got a loss of how it is that we use words in our society today to describe something that we think it means, although that's not what it actually means. Or
I'll tell you why I asked the question. All right, in a forum, each candidate will be asked the same question.
Yeah.
Each candidate will give an answer, and then we'll move on.
But what if you don't have any other candidates, Chad? What if it's just there by yourself?
In a debate, there's an opportunity for rebuttals.
Yeah. Which we don't have. I mean, we really don't have that. See, okay, so let me get this right. It's a candidate forum for Kansas Senate and House, Kansas Senate District 31, both Jason Miller and Stephen Owens. Kansas representative for District 72 is both Avery Anston and Heidi Hoskinson, and Kansas representative for 74th District is Jenna Ratzliff and Mark King. It's happening October 9th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at McKinley Administrative Center, which is held 308 East 1st Street in Newton. Okay, now, when I saw that, the first thing I thought was, I'm sick and tired of the way some of this goes. It's like I want to know something about these candidates. I want for there to actually be answers that are given that last more than a minute. Okay? Give us 3 minutes to introduce yourself. That's rare. Let's say we give you 2 minutes to introduce yourself and 1 minute per answer. Now, somebody a naysayer could say, "Oh, you're complaining. Okay, but the truth of the matter is for those that actually want to go and are undecided and want to be able to determine who it is that they think is the best candidate, how much can you actually learn? How much can actually be questioned and answered when it comes to 6 people in an hour and a half?
Not a whole lot, but there's something that we're all dealing with, and it goes to why we have, you mentioned that I put a word limit on. By the way, my word limit is 200, not 5. Okay? There are 2 reasons. One of which is that we're dealing with a finite amount of space in the first place. Okay? Every word costs money, one way or another. Here's the other one. Andy here is demonstrating it. Did you put him on camera? The average American.
I'm reading
the average American has an attention span that is shorter than the average American goldfish.
At this point, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And so if we put a candidate up there and say, you've got 20 minutes to tell us why not raising the mill levy and then in turn not adding sheriff's deputies is a good idea, within a minute and a half, everybody's zoned out. They're done.
But
they're ready to hear the next thing.
Okay, and I'll argue this. There's a big difference, and I know you didn't mean it literally, right? But figuratively, nobody's asking for 20 minutes, Chad.
I know.
And you know what I'm saying. And
That's,
I'm not
that's
getting
hyperbole.
At you, but it's
hyperbole.
It's the fact that we've got 6 candidates, and we're gonna have a forum, we call it. And so then from there, there's so little time that anybody's going to be able to articulate any kind of real, tangible message for people to say anything other than what. I mean, it's going to get condensed. I'm just telling you
that one of the things that we're dealing with is that people do not have attention spans.
Yeah. And the answer to this would be...
I don't want to pick on you, Andy, but I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah.
How many times have you shown up to a Board of Education meeting and that room is full, but they're not there because they want to hear about the updates to the policy on students coming from other districts? They're there because they've won some award, they're going to be honored by the board, and you're going to glad hand them. How many times has that happened?
A lot.
And how many times has any of those people sat through literally any of the meeting?
Almost no one.
Yeah, but bet. When somebody hears something, when I heard that we'll just throw this out there. Full disclosure, this is not what I heard. This is not truth. So just here's what it is. Okay.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I heard that the Newton public school system is going to build an elementary school south of Highway 50. They're going to spend $8 million to do it, and they're supposed to break ground in 2025.
Well,
what year is this? What year is this?
I heard allegedly
that was like 2016.
Is that our past superintendent had a deal with the landowner, and they were going to get a side payment for the money.
Oh, that,
and they were going to do all that
doubt it.
Because they wanted to make sure they closed another school in another area.
Yeah,
that is a sacred cow that finally got closed recently, and it just really tore up. But I will tell you, in hindsight,
did you hear, Chad? Do you know what I just heard? I just heard that I was wrong. They're not going to build a new school south of Highway 50 in 2025. They're going to reopen Walton, because that's what Andy just said. Andy just said they were going to reopen Walton. Now, don't tell anybody that I said that, because that was between Andy and I, and he doesn't want me to tell anybody.
I think I'm going to let my son get a goldfish so that I can deal with a better attention span.
I'm sorry. It's like crafting a message.
I will say that these graphics are a lot nicer than what they used to be.
Yeah.
I see some improvement in some areas. I do think we're checking off a box. And so I think we've heard why my attention span sometimes is short is I feel like and in the school board meetings, we drive over something and we back up, and we drive over it again and we back up. And I think people like to hear themselves talk at some point. In a board meeting, when somebody says something that I was thinking, I'm moving on because it was said. I don't need to repeat it. I don't need to piggyback off of. That's one of my pet peeves.
Yeah.
I'm piggyback off of and say it again. It's like, well, what show is this?
Yeah, you don't bring anything new to the table. Hey, how many times
what are
have we
we
seen
doing
that?
here?
How many times
and
have we
I
seen
get
that?
frustrated with that because in my world, we don't have time for that.
Well, go to this. During the wind energy debate, you had a group of people that showed up to every county commission meeting, and said the same exact thing over and over and over and over.
That feels
again.
good to hear yourself in your echo chamber.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names, but I am going to say that there are people that were showing up during that time that I felt like I could just copy and paste from one week to the next.
Yeah.
And I'd have been okay. I mean,
I think we're checking off a box as a community, right? People wanted the forums. Why aren't you doing forums? There's so much going on right now behind the scenes, in my opinion. And I'm saying it just how I'm saying it because people are realizing how inept some things are in some systems, and people don't know what to do with it. And the way the climate in the world is today, it's changed. And people do not like to adapt, especially certain types of people. And for my crowd, some of the more conservative people, and especially the very conservative, really don't like change. It's not in their nature. They like, most of them like predictability. It was fine how it was before. You know, they wait 10 years before they buy the cell phone. They still had the rotary phone, you know, that group. And by that time, the people with the cell phones are texting and they're just buying it. And then they take another 5 years to start texting. And it's just that there's a lot of that in the Midwest. Good, bad, indifferent. People are going to frame it how they want to. When you're uncomfortable, you're going to manifest excuses of why you're not doing things better. If it was up to me, we would have debates and open conversations to see what people really got in the tank in long form. We would have 6 people at a table like this, and we would have 2 people that don't have an agenda. Good luck finding that in some way, shape, or form out there. And we would just drill and figure out who these people are. And you let the cream rise to the top, but that's not what's going to happen.
No.
And not that even the Now and the Chamber have any inside scoop that want to push a narrative of some sort. But there are people out there, when groups have forums, they do it to I got you to other people. And it's becoming so evident. And I used to watch from the outside in, and people are pansies, why don't they show up? It's like, why would you show up knowing you're going to get jumped?
yeah.
And it's happening at the national stage too. And the same people that are complaining about it having at the national stage are okay to do it in their little pocket.
Yeah.
But
ABC's bad.
they would never do what those two are doing. But then they're doing it over here.
Yeah.
It's like hypocritical
Yeah.
I've been
bullcrap,
there.
man.
I've been through-
You know, people ask me why I didn't show up to one candidate forum that was provided by a certain entity in Harvey County, and
It's the conservative women's group.
It's the Conservatives Women Group. Yes, and it was because it was all a joke. I mean, and I'm going to call it a joke because all barriers of morality and ethics were gone. I knew if I were to go to there that they had one agenda in mind, and that was that they supported a candidate and they wanted to make sure that that candidate got the best showing while everybody else had a gotcha moment.
And these things are so obvious once you're paying a little bit of attention, but it happens in a lot of spheres, right? Just be real about it.
It does.
And it's okay to just call things out for what they are and stop pussyfooting around and dancing around the eggshells. It's just like, break the eggs, guys. Stop it. I mean, we see you. It's like me hiding behind a little pole, right? Like, dude,
as long as I can't see you, you can't see
my
me.
belly's
That's
kind of out there. You know what I'm saying?
it's like as long as I do this,
And that's part of the
you
problem.
can't
We
see
dance
me.
around stuff,
Yeah.
and you don't have to be ugly about it. But things are what they are, and people see it, and it's okay just to put it on Front Street and just say get better, and for me included, right? Get better.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I would gladly have a forum, if you want to call it that, or a debate, or whatever context that we need. 3 of them. Have them an hour apiece, digitize them. Then, I mean,
out there.
provide to the community.
And it doesn't even have to be a whole hour, but you know, limiting it to here's my feeling on the forum that they're having and forums that I've helped host. We try and do too much. Okay? So you want to have a forum for a county commission?
How would you want it? Map it out.
I would want County Commission District 2.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
I don't need the other district right now. Because if our interest is finding out what is going on in the brains of these candidates, we need time with each of those candidates to make that happen. And if we're going to be insistent that that's going to happen in a forum or debate setting, meaning multiple candidates sitting there, we need to limit the number of... Straight up. They've been doing that with presidential debates for decades.
Your accent came out, just saying. The decades. Did you hear it?
All right, fine. But I mean,
that Mennonite's still in there.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And because of my travels, there's a little Minnesota in there too. But
Minnesota.
But Biden and Trump were not the only candidates that were going to be on ballots, but they're the only ones that were in the debate.
Yeah, but that's because that goes a little deeper. That goes a little bit into partisan politics, because the same thing happened here in Kansas when we had an independent candidate or you have a libertarian candidate, right? They don't want to allow for the libertarian. They'll debate each other.
Yes,
they're just not going to allow for anybody else to be at the debate, or they won't show up.
If you bring in the libertarian, you've now cut the amount of time for the top two candidates by a third. It's just the way of the world. It's the way things work. People do not understand. Time is not infinite. It's very finite. And once it's spent, it's spent. There's no getting it back. My point is this. If we were to do a forum for District 2, and we're going to say that it's going to be an hour, and, realistically speaking, we're going to take 5 minutes to introduce things. Okay, now we're at 55 minutes. And then you're going to have some time in between your questions, right? But at the end of the day, at 55 minutes, you've now got, 27 and a half minutes for each of the two candidates.
Yes, compared to 10.
You bring in the other district... You now have 4 candidates. So instead of 27 and a half minutes, you've got about 12.
So then we are electing these people. Now I'm going to throw this. This comes into the conversation, the main one that I wanted to have about local stuff. And it comes to the fact that I have been doing everything I can to try to get research that I can, or do everything I can to research some of these candidates. And I'm seeing that there's really not a whole lot there. I mean, we're going to say this.
The aggressive campaigning pretty much came to an end at the end of the primary.
But I'm not so sure that it has. In public, you might be correct. But I know for a fact that there are people going around and knocking on people's doors. And once again, I'm going to say it, telling them whatever they think that they want to hear. Demonize the other candidate and hope they win.
On the front porch, they control the narrative. On the front porch, they control the narrative. So if you don't want to answer the question of, did the county commission do right by their own departments when they made their budget? If you don't want to answer that question, you don't have to. Because you're on the front porch. How many people are going to ask that question?
I can tell you whatever. Look now.
How many
this
people
is
are going
what
to
it
ask
comes
that
down
question?
to, Chad. It comes down to this. I'll tell you whatever I think you want to hear. It's not being recorded, so no matter what, you can't come back on me and say something. I'll just tell you they're just a liar. You misunderstood what I said. You didn't understand. Oh no, this, that, or the other. Shh. Don't tell anybody that I told you that. Did you know this about this candidate? Here, it gets so bad. Literally. I had a interview with Mark Jenkins that you guys have seen start to come out. It was one of the best interviews I've ever done. He was the easiest person I've ever had to interview. He was the most open and transparent, especially when it comes to politics. I mean, the guy it was a great conversation. We're on different sides of the aisle. I've said that over and over, but he's a very moderate person. I said that last week. And you know, I literally had people sending me messages, okay? putting their own stuff into it. I mean, it was bad. Like, here, I just got to read it. I mean, I had somebody sent me a message because they watched a 30-second clip, and it was calling the guy a dim turd. Because he was posing the question to the public, hey, you know, if we're making these decisions based upon Republican or Democratic skews, you know, we might need to rethink some stuff, because really the job of this, the business of being a county commissioner has, and I'm paraphrasing some, but that we all want clean water, we want good law enforcement, or, you know, first responders, we want this, we want that. And then this person responded with, well, I could tell you the difference between a conservative and a Democrat. You know, it's you don't need some Taj Mahal of a police department. What a dim turd.
We don't have a Taj Mahal of a
Are
police
we even
department.
talking about?
I mean,
are we even talking
dead
about
serious.
building a police department here? You
Dead
know, that's
serious.
the thing. Is
They're-
like projection. It's more. The more I go through this, it's projection.
You kinda narrow it down, right? Let's back out just a little bit. I don't want to get. We got to be careful, because people will lose people in some of this, because it's the same thing over and over again. But backing out from that conversation, who messaged you? Do they even vote?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're a staunch Republican. All Democrats are bad. All Republicans are good.
And they're voters.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And will
absolutely.
that person ever vote?
For a Democrat? Never a day in their life.
Yeah. No matter what.
No
the
matter
other side
what.
looks like.
They've got no, because Republicans are good. Democrats are bad.
If Kamala Harris was a Republican and Donald Trump was a Democrat, they would vote for Kamala.
Yes. Without a shadow of a doubt.
There's a lot of that going on.
Yes,
and I
there
think
is.
that's the sickness.
Yes.
And that's a sickness on the local level that I'm starting to see as of the last year and a half. That's shocking to me.
Yeah.
As long as you got that one tag. So the story we talked about last week is so important, Chad, the way you set that up. There was a local Republican guy who was pushing for Rubio. And then in a drop of a dime the next day, he went after Trump. And he's biggest Trump supporting guy you'll ever see around here. It's his right to do that. Trump was a Democrat all the way up until he ran. How do you weigh all this out? There's so much there.
And you know what? I'm
People get crazy
gonna
about
throw
it,
this.
too.
I'm gonna throw this in.
Like,
there.
don't call them on that.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because, you know, you go back into the 80s. Some of us remember Donald Trump saying, "Oh, I'll probably never run for president, but if I did, I'd do it as a Republican." Mm-hmm. Okay, we all remember that statement. Some of us remember what he said next. And it's what he said next that I sit there and go, you absolutely just insulted every Republican. Who on earth would vote for you?
They did. And they're still doing it.
And they're
and
still
I will do it.
marching down that road. And I'm sitting there going,
And
you'll
full
do it
disclosure,
because they
everybody
are.
knows me. I'm going to check that box.
Yeah, I know. But
Just
you know,
saying, but
he
there's
said
some
to
hypocritical
you,
bull crap in there.
yeah, he said to you, I'm going to do it because you're easier to manipulate.
The world's changing. And remember, that was in the 80s. And the world is changing. And there's other manipulations going on at higher levels. The parties are not what they used to be.
Oh, no, not at all.
There are Republicans that are manipulating media right now to fit narratives that they were fighting when the Democrats were doing it 3 years ago during COVID. They're just using different tactics. And we're just pawns. And until we get our heads out of the sand, you see it on a local level too. People want what they want. They're going to manifest what they need to with whatever group's willing to support their thoughts. And you have people that really do have an interest, some more than others. They've invested a little more and they feel entitled to those kind of luxuries, or they feel entitled to the power that they're able to put under their wings because of the work they've invested. They're in a position to do that. Unfortunately, I've seen it used the wrong way, where it's not gracious. It's aggressive. And it's just shut up and listen because I'm the one that knows better and you don't know crap. By the way, you're not from around here. Why don't you shut up and get the hell back out of here?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I got a quick question for this.
Yeah.
I wanted to do this. Okay, I want to do this. Like in literally 30 seconds or less, Chad, what would be your definition of a Republican?
Anymore?
Just 30 seconds or less. Give me what you think the Republican Party is. You can be either positive or negative or
okay. I'll tell you what I think the Republican Party is. The Republican Party is in crisis, and it is split, and it has been hijacked by far right wing Republicans.
Okay, there's your 30 seconds. What do you got?
Republican, to me, is confused, quiet, nervous, unsure, outcast.
Okay, now, Chad, say the same thing about the Democratic Party. What do you think about the Democratic Party?
Oh, I think they're the same thing. They've been hijacked by the far left. Okay? And I believe, I'm going to be straight. You brought up Mark Jenkins. I believe one of the statements that he made where most people really do walk in the middle.
Yeah.
And all of those people in both parties have been hijacked.
Yeah. Andy, 30 seconds. Democratic Party.
Aggressive, confused, angry, self-righteous, dangerous.
And see, and here's my thing, and I thought about this pretty heavy. I almost could say the same thing about both.
Yes.
The definition
100%.
of
Yes.
each of them are vying.
I mean,
They're split.
We
Yeah.
just did it.
There's a split.
Yeah.
When we did it, we were using the same words and same language about both parties.
Now, another quick test.
All of us were.
Okay, another quick test. Chad, 30 seconds or less. What does the Republican Party stand for?
Right now, I don't have a clue. It feels like they stand for no tax and no government.
Okay.
That's what it feels like. But that's that's where I'm at.
Okay. Andy?
America first.
Okay. Okay. Chad, Democratic Party, what do they stand for?
They want to stand for the party of yes and solutions, but I'm not sure that they do.
Andy?
A fight for inclusivity.
And I would say this. I could equally say that both Republican and Democratic Party would like to stand for or try to stand for liberty, individual freedoms, fighting for the little guy, fighting to make things work better.
Fight for the middle to be as big as it can be.
Well, and what are we watching?
Fight for the
what
underdog.
are we watching right now? We're watching both of them fight to out middle class each other.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the statements of one of the Kamala Harris. That's her.
She says she's
tagline.
middle class because why? J.D. Vance is middle class.
And I've asked over and over and over again, can somebody tell me what the middle class is?
Now, I got a question.
We're getting beat up.
I got a question here, okay?
Nobody knows even what it is.
Well, it's actually, yes, okay. Right now, I'm pretty sure, and don't be too critical on me, folks, but I think it's wage earners between, like, literally $50,000 and $400,000 a year.
I'm sorry, $400,000 is not middle class.
I may be wrong. I may be
Depends
wrong.
on where you live.
No.
Yeah. I may be
it does
wrong.
not depend on where you live.
So
400K is not middle class.
But the middle class used to be a very small. I mean, it was a large group of people, but the parameters were very small.
Would you say it's 50 to 150? Depending on where you're at.
I would pose the idea that at 50 you're probably working poor.
Your poverty, I would think, yeah.
That hurts.
Your
And
paycheck,
especially,
you
I
are
might be wrong.
paycheck to
there's a lot of
paycheck.
dynamics.
I gotta
how
say-
many do you have in your household?
Yes.
I mean, how many
It's all
mouths are you
variables.
feeding?
Yes.
How many kids are you putting through sports? How many checks are you sending at the beginning of the year for how many kids to go to school for just the basics?
Yeah, and I might be wrong. Once
So
again,
50,000 gets swallowed up quick these days.
the number I threw out is not definitive. Okay, I did not research this before. Okay, I mean, I just threw out a number to say that I know when I looked that it was like I thought, man, that's a big group of people. That's like a big group. So this middle class, as long as you change the parameters, well, it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, right? It was like before you said, okay, well, the middle class is between, let's say $75,000 and $200,000 a year, right? Well, over time, what we've done is we've just had that grow and grow and grow, and then we call it the middle class.
And see, here's the problem we have.
Okay.
Is I think
it's 56.6 to 169.8.
Okay, so I was wrong.
That's what they're considering the middle class.
I was wrong.
56.6 to 169. Because I think when you get to the 250, you start getting in the 5% range, the top 5%.
Okay.
Right about 250.
Yeah, good call.
And then it starts, you start getting in 400,000. I believe it's the 1%.
Yeah.
But let me see.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Good call. Yeah, because now that's making sense. I concur.
And I think the tax breaks, one of the things that might pulled you there, they're talking about taxing over 400,000. I mean, there's language out there. You know how this works. It's marketing.
Yes.
It's vote for me because you're not going to get hit with your taxes. But then when you reverse engineer that with Kamala's tax, I mean, that is a problem in itself.
And this goes back to what we talked about last week when it comes to identity politics. We have deduced ourselves, and I say we because we're all in this together, to be a situation where we play out scenarios that try to attach to people's ego, how they identify. That way we can get them out to vote for us because we identify. Now I got a question. Okay, here's this. I take it back to this, right? How many of those people standing up on stage that are wanting you to vote for them at a national level have any idea how your day-to-day life runs? Because to me, none of them. You may have been one time in the past.
There
right?
it is.
But that doesn't mean that that's the case today.
Correct.
Right? So then it blows my mind. There was so many things I wanted to cover that I just thought was crazy. It's like I don't know what it is about recently, but as I'm watching all this stuff unfold, whether it's a new revelation to myself or whatever the case may be, but I just keep hearing this thought come into my mind when we're looking at what's going on with P. Diddy and all the crap that's going on, and Epstein and all their lists and all these people and all this and all this. It's like, who are these people? Like where do these people come from? I don't know any of these people. I've never brushed shoulders with any of these people. I've never even brushed shoulders with people that have the caliber of money that they have. There's tunnels buried underground to here to there so we can traffic kids. I mean, you cannot make this up. And it goes back to this. How many people in that situation are idolized by common folks like us to be whatever we think they are, and whatever projection that they're able to push their message, and therefore we somehow or another in our ego will take and think that they're somebody when they're just another somebody. I mean, I'm at a loss. I really, just lately it's just been like that's been bombarding.
Can I have a squirrel moment? Squirrel?
Yeah, and I probably just did
My
a squirrel
attention span
moment.
is nothing.
Hey, I did it. I
Squirrel.
I took us
You
off
know what
on a
would
track.
be really cool? If you could get a graph and timelines of every time the Epstein thing or the P. Diddy thing or that type of pop sensation style story flings into the media cycle. Look at the dates and times. And please Google, people.
Yeah.
But just look at that. There's a lot of people that get distracted very easily away from the main thing. And if you don't think, I'm at this point, so this is going to throttle the heck out of us.
Theory.
They're using WMDs.
Dude.
Right?
Dude.
Weapon of mass
different
distraction.
Form. Do you know how smart people are in some certain positions that have time to think and plot all day, every day, and that constantly look at data and do pilot tests in different sections of the country with different profile types, and then they move those tests look at the numbers and look at what comes back, and then they move it again in sequence and they start drilling down. We are walking cyborgs, people.
Yes. Yeah. Data mines.
And on top of all the testing that has been done that you can read about in the 40s and 50s to now, and the hyperlinks that we have to testing humans and individuals with the data we're giving up every single day. If you don't think we're being manipulated at this point, it's sad. It really is, but we've got to snap out of it. Because the biggest cyborgs of them all, if this doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will, are our children.
Yeah. Well, and I got to say this.
They are hooked up to the Matrix in ways that we can't even imagine.
And I'm not going on to some fear-mongering here.
I can't. I would love to hack in and look at the algorithms and the stuff on my son. Because I'm going to tell you, my son, Kinnick, I love you. I love you with every heart, every bit of my heart. But I'm just telling you that the rest of the world looks at you and you are freaking weird.
But aren't we all weird? I mean, I got to go down to this.
This is a kid who this is a kid who will sit down in front of the TV and go, they're nothing on. I guess I'll watch Corner Gas. I mean, we're talking about a Canadian comedy that was written for guys my age. Okay? I just know
He's eccentric.
that he is just all that stuff on his phone too. I just know that somewhere somebody's looking at this kid, 14 years old, going, what in the Harry Ned is going on here? And I love it.
Well, I tell you, I'm a firm believer that acknowledgement and identification are the first two key things to change, right? Identify that, we talk about trying to self-betterment. You have to first identify that there's an area of your life that you need to improve. You have to accept that. Then you have to figure out how and what steps you're going to take to improve that, right? So there's this process. I'm a firm believer, and no negative to anybody here, but that process is broken down on many, many people in many, many ways. We're just consumers. We don't even realize that, like, I couldn't tell you how many people have told me, I'm seeing all kinds of stuff come up on my I'm not seeing anything you're seeing. I don't see anything about that.
Well, of course, because your algorithms are different.
Your algorithms are going to go to whatever you stop and look at, whatever you watch, whatever it is. And you have to physically try to bend that around. And there's ways to do that.
So I could get somebody's phone, if they let me, without looking at their pictures, and look at 4 or 5 apps on their phone. Mm-hmm. And I know where to go and how to look, where I can tell you everything you've been looking at, what you're searching for.
You ain't getting my phone. I don't want you to know how freaky I am.
Yeah, that's all right. It wouldn't be hard. It wouldn't be hard. I might surprise you. When people look at mine, I mean, I literally sometimes will go off base on purpose, off script, which it knows I do that too now.
Yeah.
It knows that.
Knows your flyers.
It knows.
Yeah.
And it's got my patterns.
So, I guess, if there's a sort of a word of advice to give, here it is. People need to, they need that awareness. They need to wake up and get a little aware. And then they need to start recognizing those things that are going on that are absolutely toxic.
Do you think we have just a trusting society, Chad?
And they need to get away from those toxic things. And you'd be amazed at what things might be toxic. Okay? If somebody's following me on X, and I'm talking me, not me as a newspaper guy, I'm talking me personal. They would have seen a post from me this week that demonstrates a moment in time where I woke up and said, this is all toxic. And I didn't expect this to be toxic. And the post was, I am going to miss all of these people. And there was a photo underneath. And that photo was of my WNBA All-Star ballot. that whole dynamic for that entire organization, to me and my soul, has become toxic. So I've blocked it all.
Well, and I mean, it's just
People need to start understanding that.
Is there an element like, you know, I don't know what it is. It's like I sit here and since I'm a critical thinker and, you know, I've been through some stuff in my life to be able, maybe it's a survival mechanism. I don't know what it is, but I'm super sensitive to listening to what people say and then looking at it from the other point. Like, for instance, let's say somebody tells me something about somebody else. The first thing in my mind that pops up is they could be lying. What's their alternative? What's their ulterior motive here? Why do they want me to believe this? Is this true? Is this not true? Is this, you know, and I don't know what it is about me, but I start going into critical thinking skill mode and I question. And I'm amazed. I mean, literally amazed at the amount of people that I'm like, well, have you ever considered that maybe that person's just not telling you the truth? Have you ever considered that maybe they're just wanting to get you to think a certain way about a certain thing or about them, and it's not true at all? Have you ever thought about that? You know, I mean, most people really don't. And in this political realm, what I've found is that, especially, and I can only speak from the Republican side of local politics because that's what I've been so heavily involved with. And I'm not talking trash on anybody, but the truth of the matter is there's probably about 80-85% of people, and I mean this, 80-85% of people that go out and vote get a call from somebody or go to somebody and they tell them, well, this is the case. Well, what happens if that person's just not being honest with you and they're taking advantage of you and you've never once thought, man, I wonder if what they're telling me is true? You go like a sheep to slaughter.
It's because we inherently want to see the good in people.
Unless
that's what we want.
You know, you say that. But I've been on the receiving end of some stuff,
I
Chad,
know you've been on the receiving end.
And it's not that nobody wants to see the best in me. I can promise you that.
Well, you can't too individualize it. And I think you got to be careful, in my opinion, to put... People are going to do what they're going to do. Yeah. We should know that by now. When you're kids, it's different. When you get disappointed by people, I also don't want to live in a negative world. I don't want to be Pollyanna either, though. Yeah. Right? So I think it's just people do a lot of things to justify their point of view. People hear what they want to hear. Do you call it lying? Do you call it, what do you call it? I don't know what the answer to that is, but because there's so many nuances and people twist words and they do hear pieces and they interpret it for what they want. I'll give you an example about me, and it's happened many times, but this is one specific example. Apparently there's a rumor going around. There was a rumor going around that I was in part of a group that was going to buy Santa Fe. And
how did I know you were going to bring that up?
Stuff, right? Well, because it's a real situation.
We can sit and name some other people that got caught up in that too, right?
Yeah, so 100%. And we did go, and we're you know, when you're an entrepreneur, I get curious about things, and you want to look at the best possible solutions. And there's other organizations that are looking for buildings and doing things, and so there's a process that I got into with making some phone calls and asking some questions where we did a little dreaming and what if this happened? What if that happened? What about this possibility? What is this really worth? And what do other people in Wichita, what have they done? Because it's a similar market, even though it's not comparable in some ways. Some of the moves are in other ways. And what did those school buildings that were built in the same year sold? What did they sell for? Why did that one go for $1? What was the justification behind that? So you get curious and you go look at these things to learn. Well, that's all by the way, on my time. I don't get paid for that. But I do like to do that. And I made relationships and I built relationships and I understand some more stuff that I didn't know before. And so I got some cool tricks and tips for negotiations and ideas in the future whenever those things may pop up, because that's what I do. Apparently, though, in some people's minds, as I'm going through this process, oh, this snake is trying to make money off the school district. and he's going to visit these buildings and they're going to buy it and get a good deal for their friends. And people start this narrative.
And people will believe it.
And they go and they start talking to everybody about it like they know something. And what's that disease? I don't know.
I think it's nefarious, Andy. I don't think I think they know.
I don't care why
well.
they do it. I think it's weak. I think it's out of touch. I think it's
on
sickness.
Purpose? On purpose.
Whatever. I don't care. What I do care about is when I heard about it, I went and met with some people where I found out it was coming from with somebody else so there could be a witness. And I took it to them and I explained it. And I nailed it. And I did what I was supposed to do. And I haven't heard anything since. Other than me bringing it up every once in a while, because I'm going to go visit you. We're going to have a talk. It's not to be threatening by any means, but you're going to hear about it. And I would expect somebody to do that to me if I was BSing about something. But nobody will come and talk to me about anything.
No.
But they want to go and talk trash, which is a sense, and it's cowardly and it's weak. Yeah. And it shows that you can't sit in the same tables in the same rooms that I can because you don't have the balls to do it. Because if you really want to make things happen, you've got to be willing to risk some stuff. And you've got to be willing to put yourself out there at a level where there's going to be some strife and there's going to be some pushback. But at the end of the day, those types of people will never put themselves out up front. And they want to beat up everybody else and project the life that they're living. Which is interesting, but that's how that works.
You know what? Today on the program...
By the way,
Andy got really upset just now. Did you hear that? He was getting so upset.
I'm not upset.
He was so upset, and I don't know. This is what
I just call people weak, though.
Well, I'm telling you,
and I really mean that because if you can't come and have a conversation, you're weak, and I don't want to deal with it.
But I've had conversations, and I know who you're talking about with the same exact people. We're probably going to make the audience want to know who the heck we're talking about. But I've literally had conversations with the same exact people, and then when I go and try to confront them about something that I know in fact that they are saying or doing, and want to know why. Then it literally turns into, well, you just need to calm down. Well, I'm not upset. What are you talking about? I'm not upset. I'm having a conversation. Well, you're interrupting me. No, technically you're interrupting me because I wasn't done talking. No, you're interrupting me. And it's like, I don't have time for these games. Go tell whoever whatever you want to hear. And then I actually said at one point in time, and now this person will not talk to me anymore. I said, well, would you say the same thing to everybody that you're telling these stories to if you knew that I was recording the phone conversation right now? And they hung up on me and have yet to talk to me again. Now think about that for a second. Was I recording a phone conversation? No. All I was trying to do was get them to understand that, hey, I got you.
I'm going to throw this out there, Lance, because people still call me and they want to talk to me and they want to deal with me. And a lot of times they want to call me and talk to me and deal with me, and it's something that I had nothing to do with.
Yeah.
And I'm a coward. I'm going to tell you, I'm a coward. And I'm going to tell you how I'm a coward. There's a reason that 90% of the phone calls that come to my desk at the Kansan go to my voicemail. And it's because I got tired of... if you would just slow down and take a breath, I can tell you why we did what we did. Or why I did what I did. But you need to slow down and take a breath. Okay? I didn't publish a notice saying that all the TV listings were going to go online just to piss you off. That's not why I did it. There's a reason these decisions are being made. Okay? I'm sorry you're so upset that there's no longer a grocery ad in the newspaper every Tuesday morning. That was not a decision that I made. It's not a decision anybody in my business made. But you can continue to yell at me. That's fine. And when you call me up and you want to chew your pound of fat, quite honestly, make sure that what you're chewing on is really mine to be chewed on. Don't call me up and start screaming at me because you didn't like the story that appeared on the front page of the Thursday paper and it wasn't even my paper.
Oh, but you have no. I mean,
Okay.
this goes back to the stuff we were talking about.
That's why all this crap. That's why I say crap. That's why so many calls go straight to my voicemail. Not only because I'm almost never in the office to talk to you. I need you straight. I spend very little time in my office. I got too much going on to be in my office all the time. I got to make a lot of sausage, right? And it's not just Kansan sausage. So I'm not there very often. But when I am there, I am watching that phone and I'm looking at the numbers. And I have actually done this. Sorry that I ran that notice on the front page. I'll get back to you later. Without ever answering the phone, just looking at the phone number. I'll get back to you later. Quite honestly, I'm going to get back to you when you've cooled off. Right? I'm tired of that being the mode of operation. I can't imagine sitting on a city council right now and having a phone number out there. I can't imagine that.
Or any one of them.
It's pretty
Any
wild.
one of them.
Yeah. Because
Or their email
dude,
address.
and let me
just,
tell you, if I were going to sit on a board of education or city council or county commission or any of it, if that's what I'm going to do, I'm buying a burner phone,
Okay,
man.
but better yet, Chad, here's the
Either
deal.
I'll go there and I'll deal with it later.
Be in those positions and be on social media.
Oh. No.
It changes the game.
It does.
You get to see a different side of people in a, here's an example. Ran into a friend. Good dude. Walmart. Walking in to grab something real quick. Hey, what's up? What's up? I'm a hugger. You know, people that know me. And this guy, he's a special dude. Volunteers, coaches football with his kids. Loves all the kids around him. We have very political, different views on politics. But this dude is an amazing human. Just wants to do what's right to the best of his abilities. Just a fun-loving dude. Anyways, I know you probably heard. Huh? Yeah, my son, and he kind of went off. There was a little issue that happened. Son got in some trouble in classroom X. I do know who his son is. I would watch out for him if I could, if I have the opportunity to do that, as I would any child around me at any given time, to the best of my ability. But I was supposed to know about that situation. All the kids in the school district, when you run into somebody, a big group of people feel like you are connected to every decision and every interaction and every expenditure and every vehicle and every insurance for every vehicle to the umpteenth degree for everything that happens across the district.
That's not how organizations work.
But that's how people perceive it. And I had no clue because I run and operate companies. And I task with one of them every single day. And it's a big job for me. A lot going on all the time. And I do other things too for some other ones, but I have one specific. I'm driving this. These are the goals. I'm set to accomplish these things every single week, every single month to add up to the year where we need to be. And you just take it for granted that most people don't see those things or don't understand the operations, the day-to-day. And they see you as you're a school board member, so you know all these things. You should know when the game is for the middle school soccer team. You should know what the basketball schedule is already. And my daughter so-and-so that has an issue with coach because that one time on the bus from 2 years ago. Do you remember that? But this is, I'm giving a little synopsis of what it's like to be in a
I know
elected official's
exactly what you're
position.
talking about.
As the paper guy,
I'm supposed
I call
to
you
know,
my oracle.
Yeah,
right?
I know everything just because of what I do.
For 30 years.
Yeah.
But it is kind of true, Chad.
No, I'm
I mean,
saying-
there's not
no,
much I
know a
can.
lot. But it's not going to be spot on.
I
though.
know a
That's
lot.
right. That's right.
I know a lot.
And it's supposed to be
But
with pinpoint
understand-
accuracy, though. But
Yeah.
with so many meetings,
I
how
only
do you
know-
keep it all straight?
This dude does an amazing job with this when it's the interpersonal communications, and I'm going to tell you how I know that here in a minute. But you're expected to know everything just because you're this. You don't. You flat out won't. Okay? Here's how I know you're so good. Here a few weeks ago, we're sitting at lunch, and I look at him and I say, yeah, I had those kids, the ones that broke the windshields out of the buses. And he just kind of looks at me and goes, oh, yeah, that's a lot of trouble they're going to be in. Andy, those kids were from Halstead. You shouldn't have known anything about it. Not in any way, shape, or form. And I didn't know they were from Halstead at the time. I hadn't actually done all of the work yet. I just knew what they were coming to me for. Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm. On your way out to go handle it. Actually, yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
But here he is. I mean, instead of just, well, I don't know nothing. I knew you didn't know anything about an hour after that conversation. Myself, how I've mastered it all, dude, I can have an hour-long conversation with somebody in the grocery store, never use their name. I'm outing myself right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
It's okay.
Well,
I get it. I did an interview with you 13 years ago, 14 years ago,
it was in the
15 years
paper.
ago, and I put it in the paper. Dude, I'm sorry. You and I haven't talked since. I don't know who you are.
there's a psychology behind that.
But you're
you know
coming
that,
up and you're acting like you know me and like I'm your best friend and everything else. I'm not going to insult you and go, "What's your name again?"
Yeah,
I'm not going to do that.
right.
Yeah,
I'm going to act like we're familiar.
But that's being in the public
And
sphere
then-
at all.
And see and sometimes the people who are doing this and talking to me about things, they're like, "Well, did you know about, or why didn't you do something about this?" And I'm like, "I didn't know anything about it. Sorry." Because we're going back. There's that expectation. Just because I'm the newspaper guy, I know everything.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. I really don't. Do I know a lot about what's going on at the city commission? Yep. Do I know a lot about what's going on at the Board of Education? Yep. Do I know a lot about what's going on at the county commission? Yep. I've been there. I've been through that. I'm dealing with it on a daily basis. Outside of that, there's a real good chance I have no idea what the heck you're talking about.
Well, even then, you're such a busy person with what you have to do during the season. And I call on you for some stuff, or at least processes or about timeframes, and you're
Right.
usually really good about getting me really close. For sure, the processes you got down 100%, and that's why I love that I have that. You know, hey, this situation, how does this work, or where would I find, or how would you go about, and you can give me the processes. It is uncanny though that the culture piece. I haven't been able to unpack that with you because you are busy, but even all that to say this, you are so busy getting the 100 and whatever you have to get done.
I'm going to have 100 and, let's see. One of them is 80. One of them is, right about 100.
So 100, and you've got 3 entities that are moving all the time, really more, but you focus in on those 3 because that's the volume. Is you have a business to run, and you're doing that as smart as you can with the resources you have. But you're in a tunnel yourself, and you also have a life, which, I know that side of you. Most people don't, but they just see you as you live to write the news, and you live to tell the stories, and you live for them to throw tomatoes at you.
And you live as a Board of Education member.
100%.
That's who you are.
All the time. All the time.
Right?
Walking. And I know what happened with your kid that one time they went to the office. You
Yeah.
know, when I mean, it is the perception
Yes.
though.
Yeah.
And you know, you care about people, and the person that you coached with one time 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago for 3 weeks, you're very friendly with. You like them, but they have a connection to you, and you have a connection to something. And when that kid got in trouble, the first thing they think when they see you is, oh man, they know about my kid's issues. It's like, no. And you know what? Love and respect. As long as they're most of the time doing good, we're good. And even the tough ones, that's not my part of what I do in that world. But we have some really good people doing their best to handle that on the front end. And we have some flyers, of course, but the majority of our people are really, really good. And I trust that they're going to do their job, because very rarely does it get out of the classroom to the principal. And even rare after that does it get from the principal to Fred.
Yeah.
Because our people are good.
Yeah.
Really
there's
good. Some of them
processes in
are
place.
really, really good.
Yeah, there's processes in place. It's just like I can piggyback on what you guys are saying. You got a teacher at the high school, and they teach math, and that's what they do. They teach math.
Right.
You got an English teacher that teaches English. They are not there to know what the principal's dealing with one of the kids that are in physical education class. Okay, we're coming in the program. I can already tell you now this is going to be part video and part audio, because technical difficulties, but we're growing and getting better, obviously. But I want to give the last word this week. So Chad or Andy, you guys pick who gives their last word, and then I want to have the last word. Andy, what do you got for us?
Real quick, I got a call. Somebody watched one of our programs last week, and they were frustrated about some stuff because they wanted to know the station, a news check system that I told them that I use. Chad, I'll go over this with you later. You can use the Kansan, of course. There's other local medias that are out there. But VT News is a system that's out there. VTnews.ai. And it's a new system that's out there that looks over worldwide all the top stories and the top 5 stories. And it even comes down to your local area and zip codes. And it puts them in order for you. Then it tells you what media stations are reporting on them and what the lean is of that reporting, just the people who have submitted, with a red and a blue line on it. So you can say, hey, only 20% of conservatives are reporting on this one, or 20% of these leaning stations are reporting on this one more than the other one. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting.
Just more
it's
information.
VTnews.ai. I'm sure it pulls algorithms from you guys. I don't know that, but we can find that out. But all the news that's put out there of real journalists, it's all kind of compiled, and then some opinion piece groups too, but it'll tell you this is how you gauge it. Here's what's going on. National, world, national to your local level. And it kind of will line all that up for you. And you can put in your interest what stuff you want to see, and it'll help thin some of that out for you, so you're not looking at things that you really don't want to be looking at. So if you're Chad and you want to have to put something to sleep for a little while because you notice something that's not setting well with you, you can do that. So pretty cool. And that's for the people out there that were interested in that. And the one guy who actually sent me a message and say, what the heck? You never got to say it. Which one was it?
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, just sorry, I know I'm giving you guys, but I think a lot of people, and I will say this, I got some responses too that's resonating with the fact that people are just as frustrated with just this constant. So people are waking up to realize that, a lot of times you're not getting the full story. Chad?
Final word. I'm tired. A lot of sleepless nights lately. And I don't see that coming to a close anytime soon. So, if you're upset that the TV guide's going away or whatever else, I'm just asking, please have some grace. Seriously. And have some grace with our local elected officials too, because they're just trying to do the best they can. I mean, they really are. Do they get sidetracked once in a while? You bet. They're just like the rest of us. So just find your inner well of grace and start handing it out. There you go.
All right. Mine is ego is a crafty deceiver. Many of us in our society today do think that the world revolves entirely around us. Everybody sees things the way we see it, and if they don't see it the way we see it, then we think there might be something wrong with them. We are, especially now when it comes to political times, are very interested in trying to formulate our own opinion about others based upon labels and names and titles. And the reality is that we've got to take a step back and start to humanize people and realize that just because somebody doesn't think the way that you think doesn't mean that they're less human than you. It might mean that you don't see eye to eye, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're wrong. Don't believe in absolute truth. Don't believe in all truth is truth. Your truth is your truth. But really just take the time to step back and realize that you are not the center of the universe. That if we take that type of thinking, then everybody's at the center of the universe rather than we're all part of this universe together. And really, to make a better world for everybody, we must cohabitate with one another with respect and mutual appreciation for what everyone brings to the table with their thoughts, ideas, feelings, and life. That's what I got. So we'll catch you next week, everybody.